Loyal listeners, it's a magical day because you're listening to the Drew Reviews podcast. I'm your host, Drew Dietsch. With me, as always, is my great friend and co-host, Travis Newton.
I'm very pissy.
We embarked on a quest this week, and that quest led us to Neil Breen's Fateful Findings. We had talked about this before off mic, and you had said there is no plot to Fateful Findings.
I typed out a synopsis, I think.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
Or at least an attempt at a synopsis. A man with hair that looks like dyed brown cotton candy experiences a car accident, and then when he wakes up, he can't write a book, so instead he starts using his master's degree in computer science to hack the government and corporate secrets, and along the way, a whole bunch of family drama happens that has no effect on that, and then eventually he just reveals all the secrets and is a hero.
Okay, so the very opening shot is just a building. Some time-lapse clouds go by. And then we cut to a storage unit.
A storage unit hallway with a whole bunch of rolling doors. And at the end of the hallway is a very thick golden book on a stand. And then it pushes in on the book. And there's actually some pretty good Steadicam work in that shot.
Yeah, it's not a bad...
Because there's no track on that floor. And when I first saw that shot and the opening time lapse, I was like, okay, at least this kind of looks okay sometimes. Like there's an actual sense of images and their importance.
Oh, we didn't mention, very important, that glitter is poured on the book.
Lots of gold glitter is sprinkled in this movie.
Out of frame somewhere for some reason.
Somebody's hand is up there doing a little bit of chef seasoning. And then they do the flashback.
The beginning of the movie is the best Rosetta Stone that we have of what is going on. His character, Dylan, and Leah. They're kids in the woods.
There's this moving skull that watches the kids from like...
The cow skull.
What's going on here? And then...
They find a mushroom that they point at for 15 seconds that then transforms into a box.
A little jewelry box.
Yeah, that was bought at Pier 1 Imports.
Clearly.
And inside it, there are a bunch of plastic jewels that were bought at a Michael's craft store and one black cube. Dylan takes the black cube and Leah takes all the little gems, but she's like, we can't take all the gems for some reason.
The logic she uses is,
you can't leave the box empty. It's bad luck.
No, it fucking isn't, little girl. This is one thing that immediately makes a screenplay bullshit when you read it or when you see a movie. When they invent sayings, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, we can't leave the box empty. It's bad luck. Who said that? What culture established that idiom? Or, you know,
That would be okay if the movie reinforced some kind of rules or it symbolized something.
Right.
But it doesn't. It just is a thing.
And then at the end of the flashback, the kids go back and Leah's family is just leaving. Like they have to go somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And the dad's like,
don't worry, the plane's not going to leave without us.
That's not how that works. Yeah, it will. The plane will leave.
But I love when she just is like hanging outside of the window forever.
What did Neil Breen tell them? Okay, kids, wave till your arms fall off. In the flashback, they're driving a Lexus SUV, although that would have taken place in like the 70s or the 60s. So it's pure dream logic.
So this takes place in like 2032 or something.
I don't know. Might as well. The flashback ends and he's walking out of a building and he's on his cell phone, but he's not talking. He just has his cell phone to his head. And then it cuts to somewhere else with somebody who is actually talking on the phone to somebody. Later you find out it's him and his wife and they're having a conversation. He's just not talking. But then he gets hit by a car and the wife says for maybe 30 seconds, Dylan, talk to me.
Dylan, what's going on? Talk to me.
Dylan, talk to me.
Dylan.
Talk to me, Dylan.
Dylan, talk to me.
Dylan, talk to me. Talk to me, Dylan. Meanwhile, he's laying on the ground. His head has popped like a balloon. There is blood all over the front of this Rolls Royce. By the way, incredible shot of the wheels rolling into frame and perfectly stopping when the logo is perfectly right side up. So that's incredible. Also, the shot of him getting hit, remarkably effective.
Yeah, it wasn't actually that bad. I just love that all of the makeup effects in this movie is just Neil Breen pouring Caro syrup on his face.
And he does have some kind of like sponge stippled stuff on his face when he's lying on the ground.
Okay.
So there is like a little base coat that he put on, some exterior latex, you know.
He went the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And then the people get out of the car, and I don't know what relevance they have. Like, there's an attractive, busty, nipply woman who we only see from nips down. She like walks over in high heels and stands over him. And then there's that little weird cloud thing that passes over the screen. Like, did her foot just spirit fart on his hand?
Yeah, there's like a fart that appears in the flashback when the kids like find the jewel box, a composited in.
It's like a puff of smoke.
Yeah, and it just was like, it's the fart.
And then the paramedic comes and puts the O2 mask on, except he puts it on his nose. It's like mouth's hanging out.
Well, I like that. And I like when he's in the hospital after that, which, by the way, is definitely somebody's guest room because it's a hospital that has fucking carpeting.
Well, that and one of the pieces of equipment that he's hooked up to is like, I don't know, some kind of piece of lighting equipment that they just put into the frame to look like medical equipment. I don't know.
But I love that he has this big, like, Two-Face looking bandage mask thing on that covers his face and nose, but they still have an oxygen mask that's on his
Yeah, they have the cannula going up into his nose, but it's like just sitting on the front of the mask.
When he gets up and leaves the carpeted hospital, he's, taking the syringes out, but they're just plastic tubes that are taped.
Yeah. Which, fine, that works in a wide shot, no problem. But when he gets up, man, nobody gets out of bed like Neil Breen. No. As soon as I knew like I was going to perhaps see his butt in the hospital gown, my arms went in the air like a touchdown.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, please let me see this guy's butt.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. When he gets out of that shot where you see his ass and he's standing in the doorway of the guest bedroom, they put up a green screen and then put up like a hospital room 9 image or something.
Right, yeah.
It's so great.
So this dude teleports home.
Oh, there's so much teleporting.
And it's never, ever discussed. He also is a very slow teleporter. It's never, ever discussed whether he gains this power after the accident and why, or if he had this power all along. It's never, ever explained. Or if it has anything to do with the black cube. Again, never touched on. So he teleports home and miraculously recovers from this horrific car accident, but not before dancing naked with his wife in the shower while he still has his bloody face mask on.
While going, help me. And just fountains of blood washing off of him.
Yeah, it's a lot of blood. It's a lot of blood.
And they're like semi-making out.
She's pressing her face up against his weird moist bandage. And this, I don't get it.
I don't know.
Also, the guy has about 5 dead laptops in his office.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, why does he have like 7 laptops? Oh, because he has a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Master's. He has his master's in computer science.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Clearly, you don't get a master's in computer science without at least having like 4.
I love how pissed he is that he has a master's degree
in computer science. And I turn out to be a writer.
Of novels.
Right. You don't know he's a novelist until 19 minutes into the movie.
With his 7 laptops, he's also got 7 copies of the same book, which I guess is his book.
Right. He only uses that as a weapon, by the way, to destroy laptops. He throws that book at a laptop maybe 7 or 8 times in the movie.
When his wife, inexplicably, like everything else in this movie that's inexplicable, she can't take it anymore. There's 3 books sitting on the table, and she systematically pushes one off at a time. It's like, I can't take it anymore. Push book. I just can't do this anymore. Push book off. That was, I think, her entire drive, which she just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, their narrative arc, like their downfall of their marriage makes no sense. There's that one scene where they have some sort of romantic cavorting thing in his office where he's just throwing papers for maybe 3 minutes nonstop. Papers, throwing papers.
They like can't rip each other's shirts. They like try like 3 times to rip each other's shirts off.
Well, you ever tried to rip your shirt? If you're not Hulk Hogan with a pre-scored shirt, it's pretty difficult. So they're trying to rip each other's clothes off, but it makes can't even get through this. It's so crazy. And then when they can't do that, when they figure out they can't rip each other's shirts off, he just starts throwing more papers. And then there's this whole subplot about pills, like, where are my pills? He takes pills for some odd reason.
He's all like, where are my pills? I need my pills. And immediately when he gets his pills, he's like, I don't need these pills.
Yeah. So he throws them in the toilet, and then she comes and rescues the toilet pills.
Yeah, he doesn't flush them. Why doesn't he flush the pill?
I have no idea. Evidently, the wife's a pillhead, like addicted to painkillers. But again, this has nothing to do with the movie until they have to argue about it. Like there just needs to be more drama.
Get off the pills.
So evidently, Dylan's family, they have these friends. I can't for the life of me remember the names. Oh no, Jim. And then he has a wife that is frigid, evidently. So we are led into Jim's life. He can't get laid.
He's terrible drunk all the time.
She's very pissy.
I'm very busy.
And then the daughter, you see the daughter in the next room, and she just sighs like, oh, fuck, I'm in this movie. And there are all these weird visions that Dylan starts to have. Like he's naked in a room covered in trash bags. Hey, that's very Lynch. And then he goes to see a psychotherapist, evidently a guy he's known for a long time, in like a boardroom.
Yes.
Like the guy's office is this immense table that has maybe 20 chairs at it, and they're at opposite ends of the table.
Yeah, there's 2 psychotherapists in this. One takes place in a fucking boardroom on opposite ends of the table. I'm like,
how's the soup?
Excuse me?
but then he goes and sees another psychotherapist who apparently her office is in a fucking closet and is just 2 metal folding chairs.
You know, Drew, this is a sign of somebody that has never been to psychotherapy, but pretty obviously needs it.
I guess.
I've had my share of therapists and not a single office has looked like a boardroom. And what really threw me about the guy in the boardroom, that first scene, is that there's a shot down the table of Neil Breen's character, and then they cut to the reverse shot. But the reverse shot is framed in almost the exact same way, so it doesn't even look like a 180 cut. It just looks like they just swapped out Neil Breen and put the dude in the same seat.
Yeah.
And eventually at one point, because Neil Breen has to inject some sort of family drama into it, the first psychotherapist, the man, eventually suspects he's seeing another psychotherapist. And there's like this weird moment of like, are you cheating on me?
Are you seeing another therapist now?
No.
Yeah, but then the other psychotherapist, who's like Dr. A. Andra, so I just assumed she was Dr. Andra. Again, the one with the folding chairs, and they're sitting like 6 inches apart from each other.
In a corner in what looks like a men's locker room.
Yeah. But she's very supportive of all of his weird, like, psychic bullshit.
She seems like not a psychotherapist, but an actual like psychic healer, kind of hippy dippy, crystal gripping vibe going on from her.
You were given a power. It's in the wind.
I guess she's some other being because at the end she disappears.
Well, she's maybe part of the supernatural force that has been guiding him the whole time. Or maybe she's a ghost. That's what it says on the Wikipedia synopsis, is that she's a ghost.
Sure.
At this point, either one makes equal sense.
You could say she was an evaporating robot and I'd believe it. So we got to get back to like the quote plot of the movie, which is like these cubes that him and Leia found, and like they were separated, and then at this barbecue that they have, they meet up again, and she's got the bracelet that she met. Well, because she's the doctor in the carpet hospital.
Right. She saves his life, even though his powers probably had something to do with that.
Yeah, because he's got the black cube somehow.
If that is indeed what's giving him the powers.
Sure. So him and Leia meet up at the barbecue.
And then...
So we got to get to the more at least straightforward fun stuff. We got to talk about the drunk couple, Jim and whoever his wife is.
Can we talk about their daughter for a moment?
Well, okay, yeah, let's talk about the stepdaughter, the creepiest part of the movie.
Yeah, there's a scene where she just comes over to Dylan and his wife's house and starts to swim topless, even though she does no actual swimming. She turns away from the camera, takes off her top, and then Neil Breen is watching her through the window like Chevy Chase in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, she says,
Dylan.
and then he's like, no.
And then it cuts inside, and she is about to have a bath or a shower. And so she turns the water on, doesn't close the drain, and the water's just pouring down the drain. And then she pours about a gallon of bubble bath straight down the drain, because that's how you take a bath, right? So at this point in my notes, I wrote, what the fuck is going on? And I really meant it.
That's the scene where he comes in the bathroom and he does like a face.
Oh, yeah, there's a great cartoony reaction shot of him going, ba-boing.
Yeah.
I was thinking his eyes were going to start springing out of his head, you know?
She drops her towel and then he like kneels down on the floor and grabs her towel and puts it back up on her.
He starts sitting on the edge of the bath, and then she's sitting on the edge of the bath, and they're having this weird conversation.
And he's just all like,
You can't do this anymore. Please stop.
I think every single line in this movie is repeated.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Please don't do it anymore.
And he looks at her and kind of nods and gives it the eyebrows like, say your fucking line. And she looks at the camera like Bugs Bunny. It's crazy.
And that's it. Like, that's her entire purpose in the movie.
She shows up again later, and then they tell her to go home, and that's it.
You cannot come here again.
So Jim and shrill, frigid wife get into a drink throwing contest where he lands one right on her titty. It's incredible.
Well, and I mean, she's already like not wearing a bra.
It's a very nipply movie.
Yeah, there is a lot of nippage going on.
But Jim has this red sports car, Ferrari, I think it is, that he is constantly waxing.
He's only waxing one part. He's waxing the underside of like the side mirror. And she's like,
You care more about that car than me.
Gives me more pleasure than you did.
So she shoots him like you do.
in a great scene where she's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
So she just shoots him in the head. I would love to see some blood splatter on that car, but that doesn't happen. Anyway, Dylan comes over and is cradling Jim's body and go, Jim,
how could you have done this?
Jim, how could you have committed suicide? Jim, I don't understand how you could have committed suicide. And then the wives get together, and the wife who shot him is like,
I drove him to suicide.
and the other wife's like, I drove him to suicide because I yelled at him at the party and he knocked over all the corn on the cob. Then we cut back to Dylan, who is in his office at his computer, like so many scenes in the movie, and he says,
How could Jim have killed himself?
I can't believe, Jim. I can't believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this, Jim?
So that maybe lasts 13 minutes.
How could he have committed suicide?
His actual wife, who I can't remember her name, she does commit suicide.
Let's just call her Svetlana, because that's what she sounds like. She sounds like a Svetlana.
Svetlana just decides to kill herself because she just can't do it anymore. And then when Svetlana kills herself, Neil Breen does the same thing that he did with Jim, where he comes in, he's like,
Wake up.
Oh no, Jenny, or whatever the fuck. And he's like, Jenny,
I knew it was
you. I knew it was you, Jenny. It was you, Jenny. And then he does the whole like screaming no thing, but they cut the dialogue track. So it's just Neil Breen really blankly going like, no. like that's the sound that I heard, even though they cut it out. And then just cut to another scene of him in his office. He's like, well, that person's dead.
And then later, one of the most amazing scenes happens because after the wife is dead, he and Leah are together.
Like immediately.
Well, there's one scene where he's just in his office and he's just eating a mound of dry, raw spinach on a plate.
That's right. And she's laughing at him. And then he like puts the plate of spinach
When he
up on,
puts
like,
the spinach on the books and then it falls over, I lost it. Oh my God.
and she just is like, oh, ho, ho. Like, oh shit, I'm sweating. This movie is a madhouse.
So I have one compliment to throw out. Leah is by far the best thing in the movie. Jennifer Autry, the actress, is a trade show presenter, and she does the best acting in the movie. I mean, it's Fateful Findings, so that's not saying much.
She does the best with what she's given, but it's not much.
Granted, as a trade show presenter, she's the only one with any kind of like public speaking experience.
Yeah, she delivers lines.
She can memorize lines and deliver them with some kind of weight and meaning.
Goes a long way in this movie.
Diamond in a sea of glass.
Then there's also like a real dude who chloroforms Leah and takes her to the storage unit. But there's like these shadow people. Is he working with the shadow people? Who are the shadow people?
Right, but that plot is resolved immediately when he teleports inside the storage container she's being kept in. And that's it.
That's it.
It's done. And we never find out who abducted her and why and what effect it has in the main plot.
There's a whole thing where he has to leave Leah in the middle of the night, and that's another nobody gets out of bed like Neil Breen sequence.
He slithers out of bed like a snake, and I think it was because he was naked and didn't want to just like rip the sheets off.
When that scene was going on, he's like slinking away, and I just thought about that line and how the Grinch Stole Christmas, where it's like he slithered and slunk.
Yeah.
And then he like drives out to the desert and leaves a message about, I had to go somewhere, Leah. I love you, Leah. I love you, Leah. Even that gets repeated. And then he drives out to the desert and the golden book on the stand is there. And then there's the shadow people and he says something like,
Should I be afraid?
or whatever the fuck.
To prove how little this scene affected me, I have no notes about it.
Well, I had to stop taking notes on this movie because I was just like, oh my God, I'm writing down everything.
In a vain attempt to understand what's happening.
Yeah, that's all. I was just like, okay, I need to be able to piece this together later. In that last like 15, 20 minutes or whatever it is, when things just go crazy, like there's the mysterious black-shoed man who comes to his house and like mirrors and pictures start rattling.
And then the black shoe man has a period all over his shoes, and I don't get it.
And he disappears. Then they wake up, him and Leah are in bed together, and the tassels from the book are in the bed with them, and Neil Breen's like,
A friend of ours left them for us last night.
Neil Breen's powers prevent the men in black from killing him. I have no clue. But what becomes very apparent very quickly is that there is no sense of how one scene leads to the next in terms of, just technical rhythm, like how to create effective transitions, but also how those affect the narrative. There's no sense of A, therefore B, therefore C. There are no links in the chain. It's just a stack of scenes. There's no because.
It is really like A happened, so then orange happened. So then zebra happened, which made A happen. We kind of mentioned it really briefly, but what ends up kind of being the climax of the movie, because there's 17 climaxes going on, is that throughout the movie, I guess he's an author, but
he isn't writing another novel.
He's been tapping away on
He's writing about government secrets.
Well, he's not right. He's hacking. He's hacking into all the government and corporate secrets.
I've hacked into the most secret government and corporate secrets. The most secret. I'm going to continue hacking into these government systems to see what I can find out about all this national and international corruption I know is going on. Hello. I'm working. I'm very busy.
He's going to expose all of the corruption, both government and corporate.
Right, and how they're in bed together and all that kind of stuff. But the hacking is such a non-thing in the movie. Every time he sits at the computer, it's just him threatening to pass out or getting frustrated and throwing books at his computers and breaking the keys. And the hacking is just such a non-thing.
I guess what the movie was building to was...
I can't wait any longer.
Was him releasing these national and international government and corporate secrets.
So there's this big speech scene in front of, I don't know, the Orange County Municipal Courthouse or whatever.
Yeah, it looks like a library or something.
Exactly. He's just green screened in front of it. But then he talks about how...
I've been hacking into government and corporate systems all over the country. Here are the files.
And then senators and Congress people are offing themselves left and right because of the shame.
It's so amazing.
Suddenly, it's just seppuku city.
This sequence broke me in a way that I actually physically had to stand up and like...
walk around.
Yeah, I had to walk away from the movie.
I had a similar thing when the guy said,
I resigned today as president of the bank.
Then he just really slowly pulls a fucking gun up into frame and shoots himself.
He just Bud Dwyer's it right there.
He totally Bud Dwyer's himself. I guess this is supposed to be going around the country, but it's all the same podium and the same green screen background. So it made it seem that Neil Breen's exposing all these secrets and like all these people are like right to the left of it.
Yeah, it's just a nonstop parade of suicidal politicians and business people.
Like so.
One will go up to the mic and then and then they'll go home and turn their car on in their garage or whatever. A cavalcade of suicidal politicians.
And then the other.
There's the guy with the noose, who probably has it in his coat pocket when he's up on the fucking podium.
Fuck me. Oh my God. It was such an amazing moment where I literally threw my hands up in the air and God, I was like, I can't handle this right now. It is one of the most amazing sequences I think I've ever seen in cinema history. It's so funny. I think a lot of people who their only diet of movies is stuff that's theatrically released, they see something like this and it's such an anomaly. This one is, I mean, this really does feel otherworldly, but I've seen plenty of bad movies that aren't enjoyable because the pacing is all wrong or they're slapped together too bad or the performances are bad but not funny bad. I think everybody should see Fateful Findings. I think this is one for the books.
When it comes to like watching amateur cinema gems, this is one of the ones up there with The Room and Birdemic and stuff like that that is notable for how strange it is and how enjoyable it manages to be because it's terrible. but it's that special brand of terrible.
With Fateful Findings, this is a movie where I'm like, tell me about this. I want to know.
Yeah.
And that's, in a way, an endorsement of the movie. Because there's plenty of other movies that I've seen that are trying to be weird and trippy and like, oh, I saw a David Lynch movie.
Right, yeah. But in this movie, I do have a lot of burning questions. Then the curiosity I have about them is genuine. Like, what the hell was really going on there?
What was that fart? Like, what was the fucking fart wisp? What is the black cube? Who are the shadows? Like, it is frustrating in the like, what is going on? But it's also part of what makes the movie enjoyable. And if you have any taste for these kind of movies, you absolutely owe it to yourself to see Fateful Findings. If you are somebody who really does just see like mainstream theatrical releases, watch this movie, because you will see that there are so many other types of what the fuck cinema out there. It will open your eyes to a brand new world. I don't know if it's a good world, but it's definitely one that you need to be aware of.
I think understanding amateur cinema is important because it actually helps you understand professional cinema a lot better.
True.
It helps you recognize the differences in what makes a professional film and where that level of gloss comes from. But I think there is something essential about Fateful Findings.
I do too. Like, I will call it like somewhat essential viewing. And that's, I guess, the best recommendation we can give.
It's like a movie from another dimension, or the first movie made by Martians or something like that.
Now, I guess we should talk a little bit about Neil Breen. He is one of those writer, producer, director, star, egotistical guys who is just at the forefront of everything in the movie. It is clearly coming straight from his brain, unedited.
What I admire about Neil Breen is that his writing has this level of childlike imagination. It's nonsensical, but he's just writing free flow, and this happens, then this happens, but oh no, and this happens, and then he teleports, and it's like a kid telling a story, and in many ways, that's sort of the purest, unbridled, just let it flow out kind of thing. It makes for nonsense, but
intriguing nonsense.
Trying to make sense of all the crap that's rattling around in your brain is probably one of a writer's hardest jobs. To take all of the stuff that's trying to flow out of you and channel it into something with structure and sense about it is not an easy thing. When you're able to just kind of put it out there, there's something I admire about it.
You were saying that in the credits of the movie, there's some weird credit about like any company that has an N or a B in it.
When you watch the end credits, there's all these company names that are credited with the makeup effects and the lighting and the visual effects and so on and so forth. And then, of course, at the end, the magic trick is revealed. The curtain is pulled away and you realize it was Neil Breen all along. Dun, dun, dun. He brought all the fucking ho-hos and cupcakes and snowballs for craft services every day.
But here's the thing when you get with these kind of guys, I have an admiration because it's like, you know what? He made a movie.
It's not fucking easy.
No. Making a feature is so difficult. And for one dude to really take it upon himself and make a movie, no matter what the outcome or the incompetence that is apparent, I have to admire it. This dude made a movie, he made it his way, and like if I had one movie under my belt, and even if people are laughing at how bad it is, at least it's like, you know what, I did it. And this guy has multiple movies to his name, and he's still making movies. I'm glad he's doing that.
I just can't help having a lot of sympathy for young amateur filmmakers. Well, amateur filmmakers of all ages, really, because Neil Breen, you don't have to be young to be an amateur filmmaker now, do you?
No, you do not. Go watch Fateful Findings.